Here I am once again, going on a game run, can't deny it, can't pretend. Just thought it would be fun, open up deep inside. I can't wait to see what games that I will find.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to Video Game Hunting here on Player One Start. In this video, I'm going to an event that one of the local game stores in my area is putting on. As we head inside, I'll remind you to click that subscribe button and the bell icon to be notified when I make future posts, and let's head in. So today is Vault Day here at this retro game store, and what they do is whenever they get something that is particularly rare or very valuable, they will hold on to it instead of putting it out on the floor when they get it, and then put everything out at once in one of these events to give everyone a chance to grab what they want. I got there a little late, so I am number 16, meaning 16 people can grab a total of 32 items, 2 each, before I even get my turn. However, everyone was given a chance to walk through and check out their selection before the first number was called, so let's go ahead and take a look at what they have to offer. In this first case here, everything seems to be Nintendo themed, and we'll start off with this complete in-box red Nintendo Wii. I've actually been looking for one of these for quite a while because I think the red aesthetic of the Wii is very eye-catching, and it also comes with a Wii Motion Plus built-in controller. I've been looking for one of these controllers for a while, but believe it or not, the pricing on them is almost as much as they're charging for this console, and if it comes with both of those games, I may be interested in picking this up. Another rarity is this complete in-box Game Boy Pocket. It's even in a color that I would like to have, but I already have one of these, and I don't need the box, so I'm going to go ahead and pass on that. Next to that, we have an orange, and I'm going to call this red, but I don't know what color it's supposed to be. You guys can correct me in the comments. Anyway, Nintendo 64 consoles, and the pricing on these is about accurate for what I see them posted at these days. It seems like a lot of late 90s products had this colored, semi-transparent plastic that shows off the internal components of the electronics inside. But considering that you can grab an N64 as of the making of this video for under $100 if you just want the base model, I would say these are an easy skip for me. As for the game selection, they do have a wide variety of games here that I am not used to seeing. Most of the time when I go to these game stores for N64, all they have are just generic sports titles or things that you don't really want. And even in this selection, there's NFL Blitz in here. Why is that up there? But anyway, some games that did catch my eye were Fighting Force 64, Castlevania, Legacy of Darkness, and right next to those is Resident Evil 2. I'm more interested in Resident Evil 2 because this was a 2 CD PlayStation 1 title that they were able to get compressed down and fit onto one N64 cart. So even though I already have this for the PS1 and I think the GameCube, I want to pick this up just to see how they were able to do that. On the other side of this case, we have a more moderately priced, I'm going to call this Aqua Blue Nintendo 64. Kind of reminds me of the old iMacs. And yes, they have a Nintendo Switch Nintendo 64 controller for $100. I passed on that, as I don't really feel that even with the N64 titles that it's worth it to add that to my Switch. More up my alley is this complete in-box Game Boy, and gosh, this would be neat to have, but again, I already have like 5 or 6 Game Boys, so I don't really need another one, and just to spend this much for the box, I don't really have the money for. Next to some more N64 games, we have a complete in-box Mario Paint. And on the top shelf, they have a whole bunch of Pokemon cartridges. I know these are still valuable and sought after, so I'm very glad to see that they have a wide selection to choose from. And yeah, by the end, most of these were gone. Along with this Earthworm Jim 3D there at the bottom. Now here's a game case I could look at almost all day. Check out this complete in-box, albeit damaged, Atari video computer system right next to a complete in-box Mattel Intellivision console. This was a special treat for me to see because I imagine back in the late 70s, early 80s, this was probably a common sight, but I have never seen this before in person. And next to that is a complete in-box Sega CD Model 1 that is tested and works, and comes with a Model 1 Sega Genesis. Back when I was doing the Ultimate Sega Genesis and Ultimate Sega CD review, this would have been great to have, but I never found one in person. And as you can see here, I don't know if you can make out the price, it's $400. And back in like 2014, 2015, when I got my Sega CD, it came with a Model 1 Genesis, but it was the Model 2 Sega CD, and it was only $35. So that is a testament to how much bigger the barrier to entry is for collecting for this system these days. The only other big thing that caught my eye on this shelf was this complete in-box Atari Jaguar controller. I actually got my Atari Jaguar at this same retro game store, and I am very pleased that they have another controller. I hope I'm able to get that. I heard several other people in line talk about it as well, so I was very nervous about being able to get this thing. We'll see what happens at the end. Strangely enough, in another part of the store, not part of this vault opening, they did have another Atari VCS complete with the manual but not the box, so hopefully this also went to a good home. And for those not wanting to pay for the original console, you can get a more accessible Intellivision Classic console. Although it doesn't have all the games, it does come with the controllers and overlays, which are needed to play most of these games. Also not part of the vault opening, but I noticed this Mario Cement Factory sitting next to it as well, and yikes, the pricing on these things have gone way up since I last looked. Either that, or they're just asking too much in this store, I'm not quite sure. They also had a used OLED display Nintendo Switch here, which was gone when I left. I actually kind of kept an eye on it because even though I don't really want one of these things, I have the feeling I'm going to have one before this generation's over. And that's not a bad price for the Xbox Series S they have sitting here as well. Back to the vault though, you can see here they have their PlayStation 4, PlayStation 2, PS1, and a few other games in here, even some PlayStation Vita and PSP titles. It's always hard for me to try to collect these games that are more expensive because for about the last 15 years, I've been used to just buying these by the lot for randomly like 99 cents a piece or less. There have been a few games I paid more for, but I think it's just about time now that these games are starting to go up in value. And here's the last game case I was able to get a snapshot of. They have some GameCube games, NES games, some complete in box, Atari 2600 complete in box games, 32X and Sega Genesis games. And would you look at that, they have some more expensive Wii games and Xbox 360 games in here. I guess those are starting to become retro as well. But there you have it, that's most of the selection of what they had. I don't think I got a snapshot of everything, as I was always constantly finding a crowd of people just to get those snapshots that I got. And overall, it was a fun time. I met a lot of great people who were very passionate about video game collecting, and we were all more or less kind of congratulating each other rather than getting very competitive about which things we wanted out of the case. In fact, by the very end of it, we were just foregoing the number system and saying, alright, what do you guys want to grab? And letting people go ahead of each other as long as they didn't want to grab the same things we did. And it was very orderly, civilized, and again, I think just a testament to how supportive the retro gaming community is to one another, which is something I'd like to point out because sometimes I feel like gaming communities get a bad rap for being very toxic, and again, I don't think that's always the case, and I don't even think it's the case the majority of the time. But that said, I'll go ahead and head home and show you what I was able to get from the Vault event. I decided to go ahead and pick up Resident Evil 2 for the N64 because I knew I didn't have it for the N64, but I was actually unaware that I did not already have it for the Sony PlayStation. I regret not picking up both, but at least I'm able to get the N64 version here, which I think is a marvel on this system, as they were able to take a 2-disc PlayStation 2 game and compress it down into one 64MB cartridge, and it comes complete with the FMV sequences you would expect to see on that system. It is really just a testament to how talented these game programmers had to be to trick the system into being able to store all of this at much less capacity. As for the game itself, back in the day I was not a big fan of Resident Evil other than just playing through it as a casual fan of an action shooter game, but this really requires you to have a lot more stealth and exploration in order to complete it. And while I'm glad to have at least one copy of this game, I did find it hard to put down after I popped it into the system just because I wanted to explore and reacquaint myself with this game, as I think I had rented it for a weekend on the PlayStation 1 back in the day, but really haven't been back to it since. Next, I grabbed Fighting Force 64, just completely on a whim. I wasn't actually very familiar with this game at all, except when I popped it into the N64, I kept getting just these vibes of like Streets of Rage or Final Fight, and sure enough, this is actually an official entry into the Final Fight series. It does kind of follow that you go into an area, you beat up everyone, and move on to the next area that those classic 2D games do. But having this in 3D actually shows a little bit of an evolution of what would have been possible had these games continued to be popular. But in terms of my initial impression of this game, I was actually pleasantly surprised at the gameplay style, but it became very tedious and boring very quickly, and I wouldn't really say this is a recommendation for everyone, but if you're a fan of the Final Fight series, you may find some enjoyment out of this, although in my opinion, not as much as the 2D ones. This game right here almost broke the bank to collect, But Castlevania Legacy of Darkness was missing from my collection for the N64, so I decided to grab it as I have never seen this game in person, at least not to my recollection. And after popping it in, I was immediately thrown back to those challenges that early 3D platform games had when making the transition to 3D. The control scheme is what you're most likely going to find the most challenging, as I constantly was falling off of platforms, misjudging my jumps, the camera often got in the way. In a sense, I found that nostalgic, but if I tried to play this game for more than an hour at a time, I would just get frustrated and rage quit. But being one of only 2 Castlevania games on this system, and this one is actually seen as an expanded version of the original Castlevania 64, I think hardcore fans would like to experience this game at least once, but I don't know if you need to beat it, at least that's my initial impression. Ape Escape 3 for the PlayStation 2 isn't necessarily rare, but it was the only one missing out of my collection for all the Ape Escape series games, so I decided to grab it. I think this was again a weekend rental for me back in the day, and I have a lot of fond memories of playing the very first Ape Escape. Ape Escape 2 is good, but I really find more nostalgia for the first one, and I don't remember anything about the third one. I'll have to dive back into this again. Also keeping with the theme of Resident Evil, I decided to grab Dead Aim for the PlayStation 2 because this utilizes the GunCon 2 controller as a light gun shooter. And I had a lot of fun dragging all of the equipment out for my GunCon 2, hooking up my PlayStation 2, and having some good old-fashioned light gun CRT action. Sadly, it is only 1 player, but this is still a unique experience that I would definitely recommend any Resident Evil fan want to try out, though I realize that having a CRT, PlayStation 2, and the GunCon controller is kind of a big setup. Unlike most traditional light gun games on almost any platform, this game is not an on-rail shooter, meaning you can actually move around your environment at free will. You use the directional pad on the back of the GunCon 2 to move your character around, and it works surprisingly well. The game itself is a bit dark, it being a Resident Evil survival horror game, so I did have to adjust some of the settings on my television to get the brightness up so you can see it on camera better. And if you're wondering why I don't do a direct capture, it's because I have to use a CRT, and all of my recording equipment that I've used in the past introduces a slight delay in the video signal, and hence makes the light gun not work. If you know a better way of directly capturing footage for these light gun games, let me know in the comments below. But anyway, as you have free range of movement, you're just free to explore around this area, and I didn't get too far past this initial screen. But of course, as soon as you come across the corpse hanging from the ceiling, that becomes a bit creepy. And as you turn around to explore another room, when you come back in here, the corpse is strangely missing and comes back to life, and that's when the game really starts. By the time I got to this area, my hand was already a little tired from holding the GunCon up in mid-air, so you may want to come up with a different solution for you. It actually would have been great if they would have remade this for like the Wii, or even in modern systems using the Switch and the Joy-Con. I think it would work out very well, but as of this video, this is exclusive to the PlayStation 2. Now, I've heard a lot of people recommend to me over the years who know that I'm a huge fan of the Scooby-Doo series that I need to grab the game Night of 100 Frights. I've never played this game, and I decided to grab it because I've been told so many times this is one of the best, if not the best, Scooby-Doo game they have ever made. It just so happened to be the GameCube version that I grabbed, but if I would have found it earlier, I probably would have grabbed it for PS2 or Xbox. And after doing some initial research online, the review scores don't leave me much hope that this is going to be the best Scooby-Doo game ever made, but I'm willing to try it out sometime. I may do that on a live stream in the future. As they did happen to have a wide selection of Nintendo GameCube titles in this store, I decided to go ahead and grab a few more that I didn't already have, especially if they have this purple only 4 in the corner. I am by no means trying to go for a complete GameCube collection because they've just skyrocketed so much in price I'll never be able to afford it. But if I can find games such as Zoids and this other one I picked up, Rave Master, that is only for the GameCube, at least as of when they were made for the console, I decided to go ahead and grab a couple of those because this may be the only way to experience those games today. While I was on a GameCube buying streak, I also bought the Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy. I'm pretty sure this was a show on either Nickelodeon or Cartoon Network, somebody can correct me down in the comments, but I have no familiarity with this show, and I thought because it was cheap enough I should just grab it and see what it's all about. Again, maybe a live stream in the future. Next, this is the thing that got me out of the house and into this game store for the Vault event, and that is a complete in-box Atari Jaguar controller. I think the biggest downside of me owning the Atari Jaguar has been that I only have one controller, so I have only been able to let people experience this system one player at a time, and now that I have 2 controllers, and I did test to make sure this one works, I will finally be able to get some 2-player action in on this system. And you know, I've seen a ton of review videos online and a lot of blog posts about the Atari Jaguar and how badly it was designed, how poor the graphics work, and a lot of people are very critical of this controller. And usually I would jump in on that bandwagon, but I've actually found this controller to be surprisingly well designed. Its appearance is very deceiving because it looks like it'd be hard to hold this, but they've designed it in a way to make it feel comfortable in your hands, and for the most part, you're only going to be using the top half of this controller. You can get overlays that come with some of the games to put over these buttons, just like on the ColecoVision or in television, but in my experience, I haven't noticed that a lot of games require that you use those buttons. Now granted, my collecting for this system has been very limited because I don't come across this kind of stuff too often, but I know eventually I'm going to have to do a review video on this system, so I definitely want to get as much as I can for it when I find it. I am just very thankful that I was able to get it in time because there was also a couple of complete in-box Atari Jaguar games that disappeared before I was able to get this controller, so someone out there in my area is also collecting for this system, and I think that's kind of neat. And speaking of controllers people often complain about, here is a revised controller called the SuperPad 64 Plus for the Nintendo 64. And as you can see here, they have moved that middle analog stick off to one side so you can use it as well as use the directional pad. And if you turn around to the back, the trigger is on the back of the directional pad side, and I think this is a very good design. I've actually tested it out on a couple of games, and I found it more comfortable to use, but I don't think it's a perfect design yet. Definitely still looking for a better designed N64 controller, but this one is a step in the right direction. I also grabbed this Super Nintendo mouse because mine is very yellowed and worn, and this one looks almost brand new, and I decided to go ahead and get it so I can feature it in the Ultimate Super Nintendo review without people complaining, oh, I should have restored it more. Not that any of you would do that, it's just something I think that other people might. Alright, and as I get things out of the way, this is another one that I thought, you know what, I don't see this too often, I've been ignoring it for years, and I thought I already had it in my collection, but I actually didn't have it for the PS1. But I did not have an original copy of Chrono Trigger for the Super Nintendo. And it took my points discount and a bunch of store credit to be able to get it down to a price I could afford, but I decided to pick it up because, yes, I will be live streaming this, and I wanted to be able to feature it in the Ultimate Super Nintendo review, which is upcoming on this channel. And since it's in such good shape, and I did take it apart and make sure that it is authentic, because yes, there are people making duplicates of this because of the price, I was just very thrilled to finally have a physical copy of this on the Super Nintendo. The last item I decided to get was an impulse buy, but it was just such a good value I couldn't pass it up, and that is this awesome red Nintendo Wii. Another customer had actually already grabbed it and then later on decided against it in the Vault event and had it put back, so for me it was kind of an impulse buy. As I saw the store clerk putting it back in the case, I thought, you know what, I might as well pull the trigger and grab it. A couple of reasons why I decided to grab this is because it has one of those elusive Wii controllers with the Motion Plus built in, and I can't find these anywhere, and when I do, they're often around $50 or $60, and that was about the price they were charging for this entire console. It also would come with Wii Sports and New Super Mario Bros. Wii. Each of those games are selling for a pretty penny these days as well, and it comes with the system, along with the matching red nunchuck. I am kind of surprised because this is branded for the 25th anniversary of Super Mario Bros. That it didn't come with Super Mario All-Stars, but I also didn't know that they had the American Heart Association on here as well. And I guess while we're at it, we should go ahead and do a quick unboxing here. Taking both halves of the cardboard out at the same time reveals the two pack-in games, and it looks like they already had these separately and just included them in because these are priced individually, but it was included in the bundle. New Super Mario Bros. Wii is missing the manual, but the disc is in nice shape. I find it strange that Wii Sports is as expensive as it is to collect these days. There's over 80 million copies of this game out there, so it's not like it's rare or anything. It does include the manual, so I'm happy with that. As I get a look at the inside, yeah, this thing's just all lumped together. It looks like some of the packing materials are missing from this, but everything I need hardware-wise is here. This is now the only Wii remote I have that has the Wii Motion Plus built in. The remote itself is in great shape, and it just looks like the silicone jacket may need a little bit of cleaning, but otherwise good. The nunchuck is in good usable shape, and I'm not quite sure, but it looks like they're missing a piece off of the stand. It's been ages since I used mine, but I remember there being like a circular disc that attached to the side to give it a bit more stability, but when I look at the box art, I guess it doesn't have that on there either, so am I just imagining things, or is this actually missing it? It also comes with the sensor bar, the power brick, and the AV cables, and it has the ever-important Wii manual here, and it's kind of strange that I've never actually looked at this, despite how thick it is. And oh yeah, anyone remember watching Netflix on the Wii? I'm sure that quality was just great. I remember my parents being confused because they only had the Wii hooked up in the living room that could stream to their TV, so they used a Netflix disc for streaming on the Wii, but they were very confused why couldn't the Wii play DVDs? Huh? Why, Nintendo? And last but not least, the system itself, which is in fairly good cosmetic shape. Yeah, in the right light it reveals some surface scratches on there, but really, in person you can't really tell those are there. I like this version of the Wii because it still has the SD card slot on the front, and all of the original ports on the back, as well as GameCube backwards compatibility, which was removed from another version of the Wii that is also red, which is the Wii Mini. That version also removed the Wi-Fi, but this one has it intact. And while in this day and age it may not seem that important, if you hack your Wii for homebrew, it will definitely be something you want. I did put this system through its paces off camera, and everything works out good. For now, I'm just going to go ahead and pack everything up, and I think that's going to conclude most of everything I found. But anyway, here is the entire lot that I grabbed from this Vault event. My wallet has definitely felt the punch, but it was definitely worth it to get some of these titles, as well as some of these accessories. It has been actually a long time, probably about a year, since I've had such a good game haul because just prices are so high and events like this haven't been in person for so long. And even though I got some good deals on some of these items in this lot, there were also some listed for a lot higher than I ended up paying for them. Not because of any sort of endorsement deal, as this is not sponsored by the store that put this on. I just happen to have some store credit, and I had some rewards points to redeem for discounts on these items, which is something I can't do with online retailers, and something I think is sorely missing. It's just everyone wants the max value online, at least in my experience, and very happy to collect these in face-to-face settings. Hopefully this continues to go into the future. And as I've mentioned before, a lot of these game stores that were in driving distance around me have shut down for one reason or another, and this store that I go to in this video is about the only one I can get to anymore because of convenience, and if it shuts down, I don't know any place else around me that still sells this stuff. So let me know what you guys think about the current retro collecting market down in the comments below. Also, if you guys have had any good finds lately, let me know about those. I look forward to reading those comments. And let me know if you'd like me to stream some of these game finds. I've actually already streamed some of the N64 finds. If you want to go back and look at that, I'll leave a link in the description below. But for now, that'll about wrap things up for this video. If you like this video and you'd like to help out with future projects on this channel, please consider supporting me on Patreon. A special thanks to those Patreons you see on screen. Also, if you like what you see, please remember to leave a like and click that subscribe button on your way out. As always, I want to thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video.